Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Hi, welcome everybody to today. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have who's a tutor currently in NUS, and we also have with us Ben, who is a DID alumni. He graduated, I believe, in 2014. And we also have today in the call Li Ying, who's currently a student, year 4. So does anybody at this point have any questions at all about enrollment in NUS, about admissions, I don't know, interview, any questions about the type of projects that the students take on, anything at all, please feel free to unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask the question.
Let's see. I do see a lot of people in the call, so maybe just to chime in to Desiree's point, we'll let you guys tell us what you want to know first. I mean, we can honestly go on and keep talking if you have really nothing much to ask. But I believe that some of you have some things, and maybe it's good to just hear from you first, okay? Now, can I also at this point invite you, if possible, if you're willing to, maybe turn on your video so that we can know you better? Yeah, only if you're willing to. And then on the other hand, if you have questions and you're a little bit shy to ask, you could message directly to Desiree. If you don't mind, you can type it into the chat publicly also. But you can message to Desiree directly, and then she will just raise your question for you, okay? Right, let's see if any questions come in first. I'm just going to turn on a bit of a low-level music.
Oh, Don, we have a question in the chat from Franklin. Regarding the clearance for the course, that there's a mathematics requirement to enter the course. Don, you have any?
You took interactive digital media in poly. Okay, so I don't have a very clear answer for you here because we do take in poly students. I'm not sure honestly if the requirement of math still applies if you do have a poly background already, especially something of a rather related course. So Franklin, sorry, I don't have a good answer for you, but what we can do for you is this. We have Ben here and Desiree here. They can check on this for you and come back to you, right, with the admin side. Now, Ben, maybe could just try to see if you can get Franklin's contact so we can just give him a good answer. Franklin, I encourage you, if you haven't done it, maybe join the Telegram group so that we can just easily follow up with you. Would that be okay? Yeah, sorry that we, sometimes things are changing a little bit with the way we've merged with engineering to become the College of Design Engineering. So I'm not super sure if some of these requirements are coming from that, but let's double check it for you, right? Thanks for asking that.
Yeah, thanks, Franklin. I have another question here from Sini, who's actually just asking what kind of projects we work on in ID. So maybe either Donn, Li Ying can talk about some of the recent projects.
You know what? I'll let Li Ying, right? Li Ying, who is a year 4 student right now, share with you first. Then it feels less like I'm just covering this with salesy speech, right? Just let the students talk to you, right? And then later on, if you need to, I can give you an overview. Okay. Who asked the question? Oh, it's meant to be anonymous.
Sini, yeah, Sini.
Okay, sorry, Sini. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Thanks for asking that. It's a great question. Let's let Li Ying chime in.
Okay, I really tried on a lot of different projects. So like the latest platform projects, which is like platform projects are basically like across the years, right? The year 2, year 3, and year 4, they will pair up and sort of like collaborate to complete a project. So for my previous platform project, I actually do sea forecast, which is to create a new way to cast kueh, sort of like reinventing how we can rethink how to do heritage kueh. So that's like food design already. And then we have some platforms where, like one of the platform that I did with Donn was actually speculative future, and also everything is COVID. So these are like discursive and speculative designs where we try to find ways to sort of innovate what are problematic and existing current problems that maybe we can have a certain twist to it and find innovation and ideas to it. So like there's actually different kinds of projects that we can take on depending on every semester. They will come up with different briefs, and then you can choose which one you want to take. And then yeah, some projects that that was quite interesting is like something about what if there was like the museum of everything, sort of like museum of like stories, museum of experiences, museum of tales and such. So every semester the professors will like come up with different briefs of like what you can do, and then it's up to the students and the juniors itself, the seniors and juniors, to pair up and to answer these like interesting briefs and such. Yeah.
Okay. Sunny, thanks for asking that. I want to give you a bit more of an overview that might help you know better of the spread of work here. Maybe first question for you is, have you checked out the DID's websites to get a sense of the projects? Maybe there's actually, is Sunny here?
Yeah, she's in the call.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, Sunny, are you okay with me just sharing what you are sharing with me in the DMs? Yeah, so she's saying that she hasn't checked out the website yet because she's quite new to the program. So maybe Donn, you can just give a brief
Yeah,
overview.
I'm going to give a quick overview for everybody here, and I'll do that by sharing my screen. Just a second, yeah. We have a cheeky kind of a website address that I'll introduce you to, right? Let me share the screen first. There are two that I will ask you to take a look for, most of you, right? Let's share my Google Chrome. Okay, so the first one that most of you can take a look at, if you want to get a very structured sense of what kind of projects are done here, is this web address called did.platform.courses. Okay, Desiree will help us to put in the chat so you can copy it for yourself. Now, in this website, if you go into it, you can see that in this segment, where we say you have a say in your field of study, right? It's completely true, right? If you ask the students here, you see a quick snapshot of four things that you could learn, right? You could also open this up and see that actually there are 10. Now, this thing grows a bit more over the years, but they've fallen largely into these 10 categories. To give you a rough sense of things, they include things like a cheeky title like Launch and Sustain a Business Without an MBA. That's where you learn to create products entrepreneurially, new products to launch, say, on Kickstarter, and then make a business out of it. That's an example of a type of work that we do here. Now, if you look at shape the relationship between man and machine, I mean, basically, we're talking about tech and the Internet of Things, AR, VR, right? How human beings use emergent tech, right, to control devices, to control solutions for, sometimes for education, for training, or just for fun. So that's one example. There are also other things like 3D printing and also medical design. So it is very broad a spectrum of things that we cover at DID, and actually every semester you get to choose again and again from all of these range of things that are available, and you get to choose even if you want to constantly, focus on one or two areas so that you build some expertise in it, or if you like to just touch everything so that, over the 4 years you get a broad overview of how design can impact human life. Now, what Li Ying mentioned to you earlier on were things in the zone of experimentation and creating desire, right, in products. Now she's talking about a very, very niche field where we even use design to push and question, should the things that we eat change, right? Could they become a lot more sensorial? Could it become a lot more linked to our culture, or maybe even funny, right? Those are when design goes into the zone of almost craft-like culture-based explorations, and when you use design to create interest in the product. Yeah, but essentially, this is the first website that you want to take a look at, right? Actually, design in here, we do quite some serious stuff. So even though we like to talk about the more lighthearted ones, for example, like this one where we have a lot of students end up, going to work in places like GovTech, right, or in hospitals, because they start to innovate the experiences of hospitals, or even in things that you would encounter day to day, right? If you are, for example, right now with COVID, and you encounter a lot of tech things, right, that we're asked to do from the government, right? Some of these are done by designers. Now, the second website is the cheeky one that you want to go to. It's called Go NUS Study What? Yeah, okay. Go NUS Study. Just take note there's a 2S in the middle, right? I mean, we basically thought that like in NUS DID, to be very frank, the projects speak for itself. So we decided to do a very cheeky website last year that doesn't say anything about the school, but it just shows projects. So to give you a quick glimpse, you can see that all of these are videos. You can open them up. If you have no time, you just look at these first 4. They kind of combine multiple projects into 4 main categories. Now, if you have time, you could go down and see the kind of works that are done over the years. We will still start to, if you keep a lookout for this website, you will see that we will feature more and more new things. These ones are still kind of a few years old, right? You'll see some food design things here. You'll see some object tag design. You see also very interactive things like using camera from your computer to make things like rehab devices or even gaming tools. Right? So the students here have really quite a lot of fun playing with objects and tech. And then you could see sometimes there is also like a COVID response, right? Where we would see how does design help or contribute in a crisis, for example. And then you will see students creating, this is just a selection, like 8 projects. Actually, there are like 30, 40 projects done in this space. Solutions for COVID, okay? Then medical projects are quite common also in our school. You see things for blind, you see things for the elderly to, basically get some mental stimulus, recall, how does stirring a cup or pouring a cup of tea look like or feel like, and then they just interact with a digital device with an iPad, and it gives them that type of rehab. There's also more serious medical projects like training tools for surgeons and assistive devices. Okay, so there's a ton and plenty. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of students like our program, because they get to touch and do things that they feel very closely related to their daily lives and the people around them. They get to see that prototypes have impact and sometimes even get commercialized. Okay, that's I think perhaps why we all like this quite a lot. And these are the examples of design entrepreneurship where students launch products and get them sold, invested. All right, Sydney, I hope you have a rough sense. Okay, actually, I should cover this too. I mean, if you scroll down further, experimental design is what Ling was talking about just now, sometimes pushing the boundaries of what a kueh could be, right? This is an example of a tutu kueh reimagined. You could watch all of these are videos. So I invite you to go take a look. We're not, okay, so just let me say one thing straight first. Yeah, we're not here trying to convince you to come to the course for all of you. Actually, what we're really trying to do is to help people who really love this thing and who have the right interest fit, not accidentally miss it. All right. I mean, those students who end up coming here, I think you can just talk to our students here. Those who manage to get in, they absolutely love the program. So I think that if you happen to be made for the course because your interests are here, it's really sad. I mean, for us, if you do miss it accidentally, right? So that's our intention. Okay. All right. Sydney, hope that answers somewhat. Oh yeah, thanks. I see your reply there. Okay. In the meanwhile, right, while all of you are thinking of questions, I'm going to just put up a little thumbnail below my video screen so that you could that might trigger you to ask more questions, right? I say this, okay. Now let me give you a bit of context. I say this, these thumbnails here below somewhat paint my personal journey with DID, right? So that is kind of an interesting thing because I've almost seen every spectrum possible from DID, from being a student myself all the way, to working in all kinds of different places, and then owning my own company, and then also teaching at DID. So basically, and then now employing DID students. So if we talk about a relationship with DID and seeing it from multiple angles, I think sometimes why our division, finds it quite useful for me to share is because I could give you all the perspectives, perhaps. Okay, so I'm going to give you a bit of sense of history, right? I'm opening it up. If you can see my video feed, yeah, Desiree has spotlighted it for me, right? I'm just going to show you a quick snapshot, right? Quick snapshot so that you can ask questions related to different moments, right? Now, I started off in DID myself in 2004, right? From JC with no art background. So for those of you who may be curious, my background was in what you normally would call PCME, which is but actually I don't have C, right? Which is physics, econs, math, and at that time, when I was a student, there was double math, so I had a double math, physics, econs. So that was my background. When I came to DID, or rather at that time it was called ID, right? With no ability to draw or anything like that. Some of my friends were drawing things really well, and I had no ability at all. So 2004 to 2007 was where I was in NUS DID myself as a student. Right, it has changed a lot from those days. Now 2006 was the third year where I went on exchange for one semester, and I did it in Beijing. A lot of my friends did it in places like Switzerland, Germany, Japan. Right, I did it in Beijing. Right, and then in 2007, this was when I did my final year project. Which, if you could see that little thumbnail over there, it's somewhat like assistive walker for children with cerebral palsy, which is a condition, right? Which causes them to usually have paraplegia, which is legs cannot move properly, right? So that project did pretty well. It got me into many awards, and then I started off some of my first jobs in Singapore before I landed my first more I would say better job right in Holland, in Eindhoven. That's where I was at Grow Design, which is one of the quite leading boutique design agencies in the world, right? So that's Grow Design. There I worked on projects like for Microsoft, for Nokia, right, at that time. And then one of my favorite ones was having the chance to work on what you see there as a little thumbnail. Really interesting and beautiful foosball table. Then my work continued later on, coming back to Singapore, working for short stints with Dell, with BMW Design Works, right? It was a design agency run by BMW. And then after that, I got my second big stint of work in San Francisco. That's where I work for an agency called One & Company. It doesn't exist anymore because it's bought up by HTC. Right. And of course, I was there at a time where it was bought up. So there was a bit of a transition between then. So that was where I had the chance to work on the Microsoft ArcTouch mouse, right? And basically invented the mechanism for it. Now this mouse sells everywhere. And so it's one of my favorite projects. And I got to work on if you see the little thumbnail over there, the white mobile phone, that was the first 4G mobile phone in the world, right? And it was a project that I had the chance to work on. It's very interesting to work on it because when you talk about first generation type of technology, This is the first 4G phone, right? So there was no other 4G phones before that. It just means that the components are extremely huge. The antenna is really, really big, before everybody else starts to optimize it. So designing was very challenging. So that was one of, these are two of the significant projects. Now, for those of you who might be curious what happened after that, right? I came back in 2010, 2011. That's where I started this agency with a bunch of friends who are also from NUS DID. We started this design agency called Stuck Design. At the same time, I also started teaching at NUS. So that has been running for like 11 years now, both of these roles. So now our team has grown to a size of about 30 persons. And I think I would say, if it's accurate to say, we are considered one of the leading agencies in the region, right? And I think we're also one of the largest employers of DID students. So I'm saying this because, my journey really isn't necessarily an example, but it is very multifaceted from all angles that you might be interested to ask questions in. So you could actually ask me questions as an employer, you could ask me questions as a teacher, as a student myself, and also, yeah, so that's what I wanted to kind of bring up. Now, and also at the same time, paint for you the kind of works that might occur. Now, if I were to mention a little bit about Stuck, right, and the kind of works that our team does now, we've done things that are digital interfaces, all the way to face masks that protect you from the haze, right? That was before COVID came. To tech devices like, if you see the little thumbnail there, it's orange, right? Like UV sterilizing water bottles, to even Singapore's army tanks interfaces, right? So these are the interfaces for Singapore's latest fighting vehicle, right? So we get to do that. The last image there is a nursing home that my team has designed. Desiree actually was very involved in that project. Where we think how nursing homes really should be like, to make the residents in there feel like they are totally not in a medical care institution, for example, right? How could you make it really feel a bit more like a kampong, right? Or a bit like a village that is your own home. So those are the kind of works that we get to do as industrial designers. You might find that it stretches very wide range. And that is also why you're seeing that on the NUS website, right? That is very wide ranging. As an overview, I would say two last things, right? The reason why it's so wide ranging is because industrial design fundamentally, while it sounds like it's teaching you industrial processes, actually what it really teaches you is how to create things for human beings, right? How do you produce solutions? How do you think up and design solutions that make sense with human beings' behaviors, preferences, and also our kind of systems, meaning our context, our environments, and how we do business, for example, how we live as a family. So it's actually this core set of skills that enables you to then take it and innovate in any field, right? Whether is it medical, hospitals, a little app, education, right? Electronics. That's why we see our graduates working in all kinds of interesting places. Now, again, the second thing I want to say as an overview, right, is that, to emphasize again, this journey is not exactly a standard journey, right? I think it's less often that one gets to touch every aspect and then come back and teach at the same time. But it's really meant to show you the spectrum possible. Now, a lot of juniors that I've seen, or even current students, they get even more exciting jobs than I've ever done, right? We see them working, in places like Facebook, Grab, in Alipay, right? In LinkedIn, right? In Google, right? So we see a lot of them in this kind of, I would say, today we would see it as very exciting jobs. Yeah, in fact, my journey is a little bit old school already, if you were to kind of pick it apart in that sense. Okay, so hopefully this gives you some anchors. If you want to ask me like about exchange, ask me about like graduation projects, ask me about working as an intern everywhere, or working, running your own business, or teaching, right? You could bring it up. I saw a question just now about art background. I hope this answers it, right? I would say every year, maybe about half of the students don't have art background at all, right? The school will equip you with the necessary kind of skills, right? To basically process your idea and share it with others. It really isn't art that we are trying to do, right? We're trying to give you a tool set. Like if you need to learn to draw, we're trying to give you a tool set to draw just enough, not as a painter or artist, draw enough so that you can innovate and share the ideas with others. So these things are what we try to make sure you have. An art background is entirely not necessary, right, in DID. In fact, you need more of a mind that is really open, but at the same time playful and at the same time very logical, right, in order to solve the problem and find creative solutions at the same time. Right? Okay, hope that gives you a lot of questions to ask now. Desiree, can you maybe help?
Yes.
To,
Yes.
let me know what I should answer.
Yes, there's one question earlier from I think Ananya, where he's asking, does engineering and industrial design have a common core? I think this is also related to another question by Sarai about no, sorry, not Sarai, from sorry, I can't find it, but there was another question about the impact on the industrial design curriculum after the merger with the engineering school.
Okay. So let me see what to answer first. I'm actually pretty excited for you guys in this new change. We've seen in the industry that like every time this attempt to cross engineering and design, it just brings a lot better results because it's sometimes can be seen as easier to be a master in one field. I mean, even though if you want to be really, really a master, it's not easy also. But it's sometimes rarer to find people who can bridge two fields, right? And being able to bridge both therefore opens up a lot of opportunities that were not previously easy to tap on because there weren't such persons, right, to see both sides. Now, so I think that this is a great opportunity for you to tap on because now you have a lot more fluidity between doing design and then getting some engineering stuff in at the same time, right? And structuring your majors and minors in a more flexible manner. You have a lot more of that now, right? In the past, DID affords you that design specialization, and it was really difficult to get another minor or major that in these other fields. Now you get the option of both. Right? Some of you would prefer to still want to kind of be entirely design. You could still do that, right? And then it's not compromised. Okay. Is there a common core? Yes, there's a common core, and it's made out of a bunch of things that are related and shared on both sides, like design thinking, right, and some kind of engineering experimentations. Okay. I don't want to misrepresent what the curriculum is because it's actually a lot of words, right? I really suggest that you check out the website, right, the official one, right, not the playful one, right, for the curriculum details. Okay. There's maybe you could in the meanwhile later on pull it up and paste in the chat, right, the link to the curriculum structure. Ananya, I hope that answers your question. Now, did I answer what was asked?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, I think we have another question about the interview process.
Yes, I see it from Vivi, right?
Yeah, how is that like, and what do you look for in a portfolio?
Okay. So traditionally, our interview process has been one where we bring you in and we talk to you, right, in person. And then we also give you somewhat of like a challenge task, right, to redesign something. And then also hear your thoughts around the information that we send to you. I mean, we will send you a prep kit. Some of you maybe have already downloaded it. If you haven't, go to any of the websites that you've seen, right? Put your email in, you get the prep kit. Watch the videos. We will talk to you about that and hear your opinions on it. That's part of the interview. Now, in the past, it's an in-person one, but I don't know if this year's COVID will allow us to go back to in-person or not. But when we had the lockdowns and things like that, we basically did this by having you submit a video answering some questions, which was almost like a interview, but it's just not real time. You prepare, you upload it to us, we will review it, and it's on the same kind of content. Okay, same type of content about how you would improve something, right? At the same time, your thoughts on the information we've sent to you, and then maybe tell us something about yourself. So every year this gets tweaked a little bit, right? So it's largely going to stay the same. So I don't want to say these are the exact questions, but when you receive it, it will be close to this, right? If you have a background in art, yes, it will help. Now, I would say that what it mainly helps us to know is when we look at your art background, right, and your portfolio, we are looking for the kind of thinking that you exhibit inside your works, right? Are you generally open and attempt to be innovative? You know, do you question things a lot, right? That's what we're trying to look out for in your portfolio. At the same time, the other aspect of things that we're looking out for in your portfolio is, you know, do you really bring a very strong level of rigor to learn something, right? Do you master your craft, right, quite well? So it's both the mastery and also the ability to twist it, right, to experiment with it that we are trying to see. Now, those of you who don't have a portfolio, you know, very often we can sense that in how you answer questions, right, and in how you explain to us what have you done in your life with, say, some entrepreneurial journeys or attempts. You know, you started something with friends, or you've led an organization in school, right, and did something new, push boundaries. We also see that inside your other stories beyond the portfolio. So portfolio is a very helpful way to represent that. The rest of you, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be disadvantaged. I mean, we've had a student, and it's always a great story to share. He came in. You can chat with him on the Telegram group. He's called Benjamin Chen, right? Basically, he came in and he showed us a lot of the pastries that he baked, right? That wouldn't normally be considered an art portfolio, right? But the craft and finesse by which he brought to it demonstrated all these things that were equivalent to a portfolio that is very good. So it's just lovely to see the things that he produced, right? So you can talk to him. He basically got in somewhat using kicks, but he's on Telegram, so you can just chat with him directly. Yeah. Vivi, I hope that answers your question. Okay. Sarai, yes, non-art related background, yes, certainly. Right. A lot of our, I mean, I'm not saying that the students with arts background are better or not, right? I'm not saying that, because actually we've seen both so-called types of background excel, right? For one, I have zero art background, and I know that some of you know, my colleagues, even who are teachers, who are teachers here now, right, and who are some of the perhaps the best performers in their levels, had zero art background too. Okay, so yeah, please be assured, right? Yeah, we are not exactly looking for art background alone. Sarah, I hope that assures you. Okay. Minimum average IB score. Sorry, I don't know offhand. Right. We can check what is last year's, and yeah, we can check what is last year's. Desiree, let's put it on the list to get this to the students to L. L, please be on the Telegram. So it's kind of like our only way to reach you, right? That we know that you can see it. In like the email, say in emails that go out, we don't know whether you will see it. So and we're not sure if you're on it. Okay, so yeah, try to be on Telegram is the easiest place to connect with us. The link is pasted by Benjamin above, a few lines above your question, L. Okay, let's see. Anybody wants to, let's take a pause from the list of questions. Anybody wants to ask anything just by turning on your mic and say something to us? Right. We'll address the questions for sure, but yeah. Okay, let's hear. Delphine, is it?
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah,
but
Delphine,
I asked my question in the group as well, actually.
Oh, then it's okay. We give you priority if you open your mic.
Okay, because I was looking at the curriculum structure, right, and then most of you just mentioned like design platform 1 and 2. So I was wondering like what that exactly means. Like there wasn't any, you know, like usually mods is like engineering or like something like that, but yours is just like design platform. So I didn't really understand.
Yeah, no, perfectly understand what you are saying. Now this is both a headache and also the secret of DID, right? No, I'm not saying that we don't tell you the courses, okay? The secret means that this is actually one of the reasons why our course has been so successful, especially in the last 6 to 7 years, right? It was the introduction of the platform system. Now, let me explain a little bit what the platform system is. Ling has alluded a little bit to it just now. It means that every semester, right, once you are year two, once you start in year two, right, you get to choose in that semester 2 projects, right, from around 12, right? Now, these 12 are called the platform projects. Now, these 12, they spread out across those categories that I shared earlier. I don't know if you were here just now, like medical innovation, or like some experimental craft or entrepreneurial design. It spreads out across all of these. So because it's spreading out and is varying, there's no way to describe it, right? Except saying it's a platform. Now, why is this so successful, right? I'll tell you the secret of NUS, right? Or DID. It's successful because we let the teachers basically decide what is the most interesting and up-to-date topics to work on that makes the most sense and the most relevance to students currently and in industry, right? At that point in time where the course is released. Now, this also means that, the course constantly evolves by itself, and you get the most up-to-date content. When you take this course 2 years ago, it's completely different from taking the course now, and it self-updates. Now, the other trick that we have in DID is that because this is almost like the focal event, right? Everybody's like, oh, this is our big project every semester. Everybody does it year 2 to year 4, and they do it in groups across the years. That means that you join your seniors in a team to work on it. So the whole kind of a school is just excited and fired up about this. The teachers are also excited. Everybody sees every project's output, right? And which also means, to a certain extent, every student is trying to outdo every student. Every teacher is trying to outdo every teacher. Okay, so it's a really smart way to kind of like keep our course always very updated and to the latest and most relevant. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a sense of what kind of energy is over here in this course and why the students and the teachers all find it so motivating. Right? Yeah, everyone is really at the cutting edge. Now, if you look at Go NUS studywhat.com, which is the cheeky website, those projects are from the last couple of years. And if we update the latest semester's one, you'll find that like all of these start to look very outdated already. Okay, and we will send you some things that are more current. In the next days or weeks, we will start to Benjamin, who is in this call, will start to stream some of these things in our Telegram, in our Instagram channels. Some of the latest projects that we haven't got a chance to put on the website yet. Delphine, hope that answers your question. Yeah, whatever you see on the GoNUSStudyWhat.com, right, is essentially platform projects and sometimes final year thesis projects.
Sorry, so I wanted to ask also, so if like, let's say you want to design something, but you have you have a lack of skills in a particular area, do you just like self-study then to like patch up? Like let's say you need like some kind of engineering in it, but you don't really know much about it. So then you do your own research to like...
It's a mix. It's a mix of being pointed in the right directions by teachers, right? As well as a lot of self-discovery and self-learning. Just because design is so varied, right? We can have students one day, working on eye operations, like tools for optical operations, right? And the next semester they're working on an airline, boarding experience, right? Now, a student can certainly not be expected to be an expert in all of these fields from the get-go, right? So one of the core skills you will find, or the DNA of industrial design students that come through our course, is they have this really, really strange ability to learn everything really fast. We call them multi-curious, right? And also they know exactly what to pick up to do projects well. So they also know another skill, which is when they learn to pick this up and enough, right? Pick up enough to be dangerous and to work well, they know how to collaborate with the people to kind of like move this further when it's outside of their expertise. So you'll see industrial designers being very flexible. And in fact, Now, if I speak from point of view of an employer, it's almost like any job that I want to, not just designer's job, right? Any job that I want to hire, to me, industrial designers are like a great fit because you put them anywhere, they will learn how to work things out. Okay, so that's one thing that will occur. Now, in our course, of course, there are teachers who are really specifically experts in very particular domains. Like we have one genius on the team, right? You'll encounter him soon. I think it's called Clement, right? Who has a PhD in tech related design stuff, right? And he's got this ability to make I mean, so many ways to describe this, but let me find a simple, funny way to describe this, right? He has the ability to make controllers out of everything that is around us, right? To control games, right? And that is just one example, right, of a really specific expertise. He does a lot more than that. I mean, I'm just misrepresenting him by saying that. So when students work on projects that are related to things like that, they will of course knock on his door and say, hey, point us somewhere. And I think depending on the situation, he sometimes handholds a bit more because maybe it's something that's not really expected for the student to figure out themselves. Sometimes he points them in the direction to discover for themselves. Okay, so Delphine, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually Benjamin Xue, who is on this call, is also a bit of an expert in that area. A bit is just an understatement. Anyway, yeah. Okay, and Ben himself also was a DID alumni. Now Ben and Desiree, they are assisting me in NUS. At the same time, they also work in STAC, right? So they can give you some perspectives from the industry and also as teaching assistants. And also alumni. Yeah. Okay, shall we go back to the list, right? Maybe you should ask some questions to Li Ying or Ben or Desiree. Yeah. Those of you that ask questions, we'll assure you we'll get every question answered, okay? Even if we're taking long. And then if you can't stay so long, we will just release the recording for you also. Danik, year 3 ID student from NYP. How the specialization route works in the final year? I'm interested in doing service design. Okay, that's great. Good question, because this is hot off the toast or oven, right? Now, specializations is a new thing that's introduced this year. Those of you who don't want to specialize, you're not disadvantaged anyway, so you could still do the same. Now, but if you want to, right, to have an added official specialization in your degree, like, Bachelor of Industrial Design, Honors in Industrial Design with a specialization in your case, Danik, service and social transformation, right? Then how it works is this, in your final year project, you will basically pick a kind of topic that flows in that direction, right? Or rather it fits in that domain of service design. And then also you will have to apply to that group of tutors who will supervise such projects as a to qualify in and then finish up that thesis. Then you'll be getting that specialization. Now, the lead up to that is that, of course, in your first few years, when you take platform projects, if you already know the specialization that you want to go to, try to take more projects that expose you to these particular specializations topics, right? Then it will prepare you well for your 4th year for acceptance into that specialization with your final year project. Okay, hope that answers your question, Danik. Those of you who don't want to specialize, you can also don't specialize. Yeah. Junjie, I think I remember you somewhat. I'm not sure because you asked questions from previous years, right? Ho Junjie, let's see. Curriculum of the course. Okay, Kevin Cham's folks wondering how involved is NUS DID in social design or human-centered design. I can answer this, but maybe let's have Ling answer this. Yeah, as a student, so that I don't sound like I'm bullshitting. Yeah. Ling.
Social design. Well, I did one project, one platform project involving social design. So in year 2, I did a project that collaborated with GovTech, sort of like trying to find ways to put a personal sort of like health device to track elderlies, especially at-risk elderlies who are staying alone. Sort of like trying to find ways to prevent falls, help them to sort of seek help if, let's say, they do fall down, and may they sort of like get assistance immediately. So these are projects that you can actually find in every semester, and then we have like wonderful professors like Ki Hong, who actually like guide us to sort of like find ways to really think about what would the individual, the audiences, or what are the stakeholders in each project, what would they really need. So no worries, like if how to say, okay, how involved is NUSDID is basically very involved, because like whatever resource the professor who crafted out that brief, right, they will put in the 110% to make sure that you have the relevant resources, and also seniors or even like tutors that are not in the project can also assist in you. Yeah, something like that.
Jay, one of the first things maybe I want to clarify is, when you say human-centered design, what, is there a specific zone that you're looking at? Because almost all design is human-centered, right? At least that's how we approach it in DID. Almost all design is human-centered. If you're looking at things that, let's say we talk about having things that serve something that feels more like a important need than something that's just nice to have, right, or lifestyle, then I would kind of basically just ask Ben to share a little bit, because Benjamin Xue, right, his final year project was some way to help surgeons reconstruct the year more easily for kids with 1 year missing or deformed, right? Maybe Ben can share a bit about that.
Yeah, okay, can. Okay, so I think like just echoing one point that Donn shared earlier, like all of us are not expert in, let's say for example, in the medical field, right? But we do have this I think curiosity to learn about for example how the medical field works. So basically we would dive like head first into the pool and go and learn know some of the medical stuff, like for example the medical terms that the doctor will use, some of the procedures that they will perform. So basically I went through the whole YouTube to learn how they perform the surgery. So it's quite amazing that you can actually learn. I mean, learn doesn't mean you can become a doctor, but you can learn what they are doing, like they are suturing and the procedures that they are doing. And then when I'm armed with all this knowledge, right, I actually went down to speak to a doctor, then a real ENT surgeon. And then, that's where they are quite amazed, like, how come a design student can know so much about their field? And that's where we got a rapport. And then after that, I did a project with her. So my final year thesis, which is a year long, I did the whole project with her. And then I got access into the operating theater. So that's where I, using those design tools that I have, like for example, using cameras and note taking to kind of like find out what are some of the problematic areas that the surgeon is facing while they are performing those surgery. I went down into the operating theater like I think more than 10 times. So to the point that some of the doctors thought that I'm a surgeon in training, because it's quite funny. I mean, because they wouldn't get like some random people inside the operating theater. It's either doctors or surgeons or nurses. So when I'm inside, they thought I'm a student. Then they started questioning me about some medical knowledge, which I totally couldn't reply. But it was really a privilege to see them doing those surgery. Then from there, I found maybe some insight, some problematic areas that they were facing. And then through my kind of like design education, I realized that maybe they could have done certain things better. And that's how I approached the project. And then kind of like in the second half of the semester, second half of the year, so I designed like a process where through computer aided design, I'm able to help the surgeon come up with a better way to perform their surgery. Yeah, so sometimes it's a bit gruesome because like yeah, extracting like certain parts, like certain bones from the ribs and stuff like this, and then put into the ear. But it was all fun and experience for me lah. Up till today, I still recall all those good times that I had in the operating theater.
Yeah, and Ben's project was one of the best thesis projects, in his year, right? The solution was really brilliant and simple, actually. Very low cost type of way to improve this situation for surgeons. I would just also say that if in terms of social design, well, I don't know if that falls into what you are talking about, innovation for good, right? But Desiree did a project during her final year where she helped people to understand a bit better what does OCD really feel like as a person who suffers from it, right? What does it really feel like beyond just the jokes that we keep making about it, sometimes irresponsibly, where we trivialize it and say that, oh, you just need something very neat and tidy, then you are OCD. Oh, go away. Yeah, so anyway, so maybe I asked her to share a bit about what that was about.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for my thesis project, which took place 4 years ago now, was about creating an empathy kit for the general public to kind of understand what it feels like to have OCD in the most I guess broken down way to do so. So it consisted of like hearing very disturbing voices while having to repeat certain actions. So it was done purely as a kind of sort of experimental experience and exhibition kind of thing. So it wasn't, say, like done in collaboration with a very, very big organization, although it was created in consultation with certain doctors and psychiatrists from INH, but it wasn't, part of a major campaign. But for what it was as a standalone kind of experience, it was a design for good in the sense where, for whoever who came down to experience this empathy kit, they managed to kind of walk away with a slightly better understanding of what OCD is about.
Cool. Now, just a quick interjecting here. Desiree, did you have art background?
Nope, I was a complete science kid. So I took the most science combination possible in JC, which was PCME. And I until now, I still can't really draw very well. And so here I am surviving as a designer.
Ben, do you have art background?
So I came from architecture background.
Okay, you're Aki in poly, right?
Yes, I was Aki in poly. So I took a switch in course. I mean, they are pretty similar. I mean, still design related, but it's totally different from Aki and industrial design.
Okay. Ling, did you have art background?
Yes, I studied product design in Ngee Ann.
No, I mean before product design lah.
Product design.
Yeah,
I think like I came from like a neighborhood school, so I actually love design and thinking, like design and technology, D&T. So that's why I applied for industrial design. Yeah. Okay. So
okay. There you go. I mean, everyone half with design background, half without design background, right over here. Okay, so hopefully that puts that question to rest somewhat. Okay, let's catch up on some of these questions. Yeah.
Actually,
I hope. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. You finished the sentences.
No. I say whether Junjie is okay with the things that we've answered. Hey, Junjie, anyway, right? I suggest you take a look at the website. Look for things in the service zone, right? Projects and see whether it answers your question further, right? Because we can't share too many projects here, right? It take up too much time. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask whether, Ananya, you turned on your video. I was wondering whether you have a question you wanted to ask out loud.
I was wondering if like engineering and also industrial designing have like the same core. Can I choose between them? Like I'm debating between mechanical engineering and industrial designing. So can I choose between them after the first year?
I want to give you an accurate answer. Now I give you a not so confident answer first, right? I don't think so. I think that you're applying to the different departments within CDE, but and you are making the decision. But you could take modules from the other side a lot more easily now. But you probably have to make a decision right from the get-go where you're applying to. It's within CDE, but then there's design, there's engine and stuff. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty confident of this answer. We can double check it again for you. Let's take note of that. Yeah,
thank you.
Ananya, I'm not sure if there's unfortunate news for you or not. What do you think?
I mean, I don't.
Yeah, it's a dilemma I can understand, right? And it almost once kind of forces you to have to decide sooner than you're comfortable. Yeah. But good thing is that I think in both places you get exposure to both things, right? So just in different proportions. I think it depends on whether I think if you see yourself more as a designer, then generally then in design. If you see yourself more as an engineer, then more in engineering. Okay. I mean, let me show you something. Okay. With on that note, right? Let's show you something. The mouse that I did, the Microsoft ArcTouch mouse. I just want to just bring you through this, and maybe Dejri can help spotlight my video, well, right? This is the mouse, right? The interesting thing is when we worked on this, that time I was in San Francisco, and when Microsoft wanted to create a mouse that was portable when you are traveling, and then when you use it is ergonomic. Of course, the most ideal solution is to do something that does this, right? I mean, it keeps focusing on my face. It does this, and then it becomes a comfortable shape to use. Now, the challenge now for engineering this was that how do you get something right to bend from flat to bend state without softening when you use it? I mean, if you ever used this mouse, you know that it doesn't soften. Right? If it softens, it's really irritating, right? As you go use it, it gets flatter and flatter. Now, I don't know if you might find it surprising, but they found a solution in a design agency, right? They found the engineering solution to this in the design agency. And I mean, for me, I'm not an engineer by training, but because maybe I just like science, and my background is in science, and I like some of the old concepts of science that we learn in primary school and secondary school. I could match the idea of the way metallic strips, right, or thermostats, bimetallic strips work in principle to a solution for this. And so this was the thing that I built, right, to demonstrate how it worked. Now, if you look carefully, right, so for those of you who are interested in engineering, right, look carefully, yeah, right. It basically is two layers of things. As you slide, the bottom layer is sliding past the top layer, right? And then once it gets to a certain point, it locks. It locks because it's just basically two layers that are, in essence, extending differentially, right? So it's a bit of an unusual proposition to make a mechanism like that. But I guess it takes sometimes a designer to question, say, why must we always use hinges? Why must we always use, locking mechanisms or another button to tie something together to get a very strong structure, right? To raise this possibility. Right, and when that was proposed, basically, you can see what happened to it after that. Microsoft took this and then they developed the details of it. How do you really produce it reliably as an engineering object, right? Through engineers, right? So that later refinement stage was done through engineers, and then this became now so many mouses in the world. Now, I raise this as an example for Ananya because you have to ask yourself: are you more interested in creating the thinking solution behind this, right? Are you interested in refining how to make this really happen in production and durable? So I'm not saying specifically that as a designer, if you prefer this, then you're a designer. I'm not saying that, right? There are some engineers who are also operating in this creative space. Now, but I would say that as a designer, you can have impact in this creative space of engineering as well, because sometimes I think our way of questioning things just takes inspiration from a lot more sources, and it allows us to see some connection between another thing that is completely unrelated to contribute to the problem, okay, or to contribute to the solution. Yeah. So hopefully that was interesting for you from an engineering perspective. This was done about 12 years ago when I was almost like an intern, right? Starting out in my job in San Francisco, and then the mouse is still selling today. So many copies of it, right? So that's an example. Okay. All right. Now I don't know. I mean, does this look like industrial design work? This is industrial design. Now I know, and we have to address these other side of questions too, right? I see, you know, a question below from let me see, I saw it early on. I see from Marcus. Marcus is asking a question, right? You know, basically he's saying I can't stand math and science. Okay. Yeah. Now, and certainly if you can't stand math and science, you don't like mechanisms, this you will hate, right? For example. Now, I just want to say that perhaps in the course, I'm like maybe 1/3 of the kind of people who like these kind of things, right? The other 2/3 also like a lot of other different things, okay? And some of them don't touch things that are too technical, right? We have you know, people who work a lot in the social or human side of things, and then we also have a lot of students who end up working in like digital interfaces where they you know, examine how interfaces and how you know design or lay out things affects people's usage of it. Okay, so and some of these guys go and work now for Facebook and Google, right? Yeah, I mean, the spectrum is huge, right? The spectrum is huge. There are some others who operate a lot closer to art and experimentation also. So you don't always have to work on the technical things, right? And Marcus, hope that answers your question. The platform structure allows you to therefore pick the things that are in your strength and interest areas. We do encourage you also to try a bit of things that are in your discomfort zone, right? Just to give you that exposure. But you can certainly take more things where you want to take, all right? Now, related question to this is whether, you know, with the merger of engineering, you will have more math and science modules. I think there is a little bit more with things that cross over to engineering, right? But essentially the course remains quite unchanged for in terms of what you actually learn. You just get a lot more flexibility to choose if you want to get more of these other exposures outside of design. Okay. Okay. Marcus, hope that answers your question. Let's see.
I can answer Sonia's question about like okay, let's say not having what's the question, sorry, applying for internship, let's say, and sort of like not having experience in design. I do have friends who sort of like before coming to ID, they totally have no experience, not even from design courses and such. So like what he shared with me before coming into ID was that he actually just participated and took on a lot of different freelance job as graphics. So he tried to learn the basics of like Adobe, Illustrator, and Photoshop, and then in the end sort of applied to do freelance and gradually update his portfolio and sort of like also make his skill relevant to what he needs it to be. And this will eventually help you to also secure an internship. And you don't need to sort of like see an internship to be only valid if you go to a design studio, but it can also be valid if you go to any organization actually. Yeah, so I hope that helps to answer your question, Sonia.
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Yeah, I add to that a little bit. Design is a little bit like something that you get better and better at the more you have more different life experiences. Okay, because it allows you to understand human beings a bit more each time. And it doesn't mean that you need design experiences to get better at design, right? Working in a different place, you know, experiencing a different field more, you understand again another aspect of how human beings work. Sometimes it's very specific, like you know, the question there below, I think by Marcus again, right? about taking things that are outside of design, diluting the ID stuff that you have, right? Now, this is quite directly related to what you are asking, because sometimes working with engineers or working in engineering modules equips you better to work with engineers, right? And you start to see better how design fits in place, how engineering comes in at the right time for different things, right? And that makes you overall better as a designer to run projects and to get it to work for within human beings systems, right? Which is not just design, you know, it is a whole chain of things. So I don't think you dilute yourself. Actually, the more varied experiences that you have while anchoring strongly enough in design would probably be a very good mix, okay, of things. Now, I mean, I don't know any of you who are parents. Maybe some of you might be, right? But sometimes we have, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So when you become a parent, right, the life experiences that you have will help you see your users in a very different way also. So every little thing that you do, right, will add to this. This is also why I love design, and I think that many of you will enjoy it too. You will see that it's so relevant to your life and to all the things that you encounter, right? And you take from there and you apply in design, and as you design, you serve it back to these fields that you these places that you live in, right? So that's one of the beauties of this course. All right.
I can also take Franklin Raju's question. So he was asking me privately in message like about taking gap years before coming to ID also. So I do know people who sort of like let's say they graduate from poly and they go work before coming. So yes, if you're in the relevant field, in the sense it does help you to secure the spot better, because like you might have probably done projects in industry and probably that adds to your portfolio, and that sort of makes it easier for you to sort of like explain and your thought processes and such. So these are things that matters, but it doesn't mean that mature students don't get an opportunity to come to study in ID industrial design also. So yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah. Donn, I think got someone asked, is it?
I hope I haven't missed out anything there.
Yeah, Feng Rong was asking about, I have lots of ideas in different design in the daily life, and how to choose one or two. Is this like very up to your view?
Feng Rong, you sound like complete good fit for the course. Right? Now, sometimes, I mean, we have two spectrums, right? Some students were like, "Oh, I have no ideas," and some students, "I have too many ideas," right? Now, I think in the course you will learn to manage this tension, right, of having too many or too little. Okay. Now I don't know if you're asking me for an answer now. How should I choose one or two for more thought out design, maybe, right? Let me see if I can give you some handles at this point. One principle is this, right? When you want to test out ideas and you're uncertain yet and you have many to test from, you need to be able to test them out efficiently, right? Else you will have no time, like you're explaining. So one of the principles that we always teach students is you test out just enough, right? Just enough means you know, sometimes in some situations, an idea, you draw it out a little bit, is enough. You know that it doesn't work, right? Better do the other idea. Sometimes you draw it out a little bit, you know it has potential. So then that little drawing is fine. That's just enough. Other times, if you kind of want to say, hey, I'm going to design some kind of door handle, right? That helps people to, you know, open it more easily. Instead of using the hand, they want to use the elbow because it's COVID, right? Say toilet door handles, for example. Now, sometimes in the mind, that's the idea. And if you go and kind of work on prototyping it, well, it might take you kind of like, you know, 5 days, 10 days to build something to test. Now, again, going by the principle of just enough, I would say, let me pick up something from my table. Maybe this is a remote control icon. Okay, put it here. I try to test out with my elbow. It's roughly the size of the thing that I want to do, right? I get a very quick sense of, does this work? Right? Take an umbrella hook, put it like that, and then just kind of experience it. Then I get another thing. So basically, one of the things that you want to do as a fundamental principle when you have too many things to test, or actually whenever you have to test things in the first place, is to test just enough, right? So that you can eliminate and save effort to move on further. But of course, you have to be smart, right? Test with the easiest things to test. Now, yeah, if you're telling me that you have too many ideas and it's too slow to test, but say for example, a student is doing this by like making everything into like a really beautiful model just to test it, then they're not very efficient lah. Okay, so that's one example. Now, another principle to think of is that maybe just if you have too many, just pick lah. You know, instead of saying that let me just get stuck with this process of thinking how to pick, right? I would just say just pick, right? Or the other thing you could do is create some kind of criteria for yourself. Like to say, okay, as a designer, I can pick solutions that seem like they will work. I can also pick solutions that maybe might work, but then are very exciting because nobody really has suggested before. It's a bit crazy, right? So if you're inclined to say, try to create something with quite a lot of spark, right, that nobody has seen before, very unexpected, right? Then maybe using that as a criteria will help you to pick those things first. And then you can just say, okay, let me just do all those crazy ones first because they're more interesting. If I start with them and they work out fine, then I don't look at the rest already. You know, it's okay. Just close my eye. Don't go and think about the rest that I never touch on, because I really had a good solution here. Now, if it doesn't lead to anything good, then of course you can scale down and say, okay, what's the next one that I missed out? All right. So Feng Rong, there are many ways. Just giving you a snapshot of two here, and everybody is different. Your thought processes are different. That's what I think we will investigate in detail in person with you, okay? To find a creative process that works best for you. Okay. Okay, now it's 4:15, right? I know some of you may have to run off. Desiree, shall we do like a lightning round or something like that? Yeah, we try to rush through some questions, right? Because some are very quick. Which one is lightning round possibility?
Double major combos. We don't have double majors in industrial design, but in any case,
Ling, I'm not sure about the new merger, no. Yeah. Yeah, the new merger, I'm not sure whether maybe have. Yeah, previously don't have. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
exciting. No. So actually, I'm not sure. I think you can do another major, right? Now. So sorry, guys, we don't have very, very clear answers on this. We are taking it down. We will give you the answer in Telegram. All right. Again, we'll paste the Telegram link again at the bottom. I know that the new changes might be enabling this as a possibility, but let's confirm it.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. What's next? Delphine, we've answered you. Okay, Marcus, we've answered you. Jaylee, you want to know roughly how many people apply, right? I think we can extract the statistic. If I'm not wrong, and just to give you a quick sense, right, and we'll come back with the actual statistics, okay, of last year. Just to give you a quick sense, I'm guessing from my memory, I think we typically get about 4 times oversubscribed, right? Something like that, okay? But I'm not super sure yet. It's always oversubscribed by a few times, right? But I think it's around 4 times, okay? Yeah. So, Franklin, I think Ling has answered you. Marcus answered you. Feng Rong, you have another question. Better in design or something maybe better value for society? Okay, great question actually, Feng Rong, right? Usually, better value for society is better in design, right? Unless you're telling us that better value for society, or unless you're telling us that better in design, you're referring to how good something looks, right? Or how technologically advanced something is, right? Then I would say we need to visit your definition of better in design. I think at DID, most of the time, we are pursuing the value to humankind as the yardstick for better in design. So usually there's no contradiction between the two, right? Yeah, Krista, year 2 NYP. Any of you NYP in here? No, right? Okay, I mean, but we have a lot of NYP students, right? Struggling with time management, but I like the course and like to continue uni. May I know how the work-life balance for students are? Ling, you answer this one. Need a genuine answer one. This one need genuine answer from you.
I think you definitely still need to practice time management no matter what. And I think in university is similar to poly. You gotta like you take charge in what your modules are. But I would say as a poly student going to ID, there are modules that you gotta take more. Sometimes like the engineering mods perhaps, right? You might struggle a bit, especially for people who are weaker. But no worries, because there will always be time for you to choose when to take these modules also, like certain modules that in a semester. So you can always choose to take your other electives on other semesters when you're more free, perhaps in like year 3 and year 4. So it's like in university, they allow you to choose when you want to use your time more efficiently, and also to, yeah. And no matter what, you still got to do your part. Yeah.
Okay, so funny. The current student Ling is giving you a very censored answer. Let me tell you the truth, right? It's going to be tough. Okay, it's going to be tough. Design courses are always tough. Whether you're in design, architecture, they are tough. Okay, because most of the time the students are very passionate about the subject, and design courses don't have like an end date. End date meaning that like, okay, no, not end date. There's no end point. Like finish your math, some done already. It's like you can continually improve it, even if you've finished it. So if you put passion together with like, the ability to, or rather the projects having no end, then it's a recipe for everybody, trying to make their projects better and better and better. And sometimes there's a bit of dynamic that, since you're making better, I also want to make better, right? And then the whole cohort essentially improves like crazy because of that. Now, so there's an upside, there's also a downside, right? Some of you who prefer work-life balance, let's just say this, it's challenging to do that in DID, right? You got to be skillful at managing your time and drawing your boundaries if you want to have a good balance. But I'm not gonna, tell you the mistruth or the untruth here, right? It's gonna be tough, okay?
But then that's why you got like your community within the ID people sort of like bonding together overnight and everything.
Yeah. It's like I tell you, ID feels like what? ID feels like a constant orientation camp. Right? Yeah, because everybody is like always in trouble together and struggling together, and therefore you have really good friends. It's a very interesting hallmark of design courses. I think Aki is the same, right? Where you're not like going to different lectures, encountering different people all the time with different modules. You have like almost a bunch of people you stick together with and suffer together with for 4 years, right? And that's what's quite nice. And nice part about DID specifically is that because we do the inter-year platforms, you actually know everybody throughout the course, right? It's really fun. Okay, so truth is tough, but you probably love it, right? Krista, actually, I think that you might actually have a bit of that sense of how is it like an NYP, right? Because it's also a design course, so you probably know what this somewhat means. Yeah. I really don't see students here who hate the course. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if there are, they've transferred out very quickly already, right? I think within like 1 year, they've exited. But those who are here, they all love it. Right? And we have very low kind of exit rates. Guys, I hope that's helpful. I think anybody had any questions that were anonymously sent to like Desiree or anything? Desiree, anything else? I'm just going to give you guys maybe 5 minutes in case you want to ask anything using the mic, right? Else we will start to close the session. While you're thinking of what to say, this interaction with us, I hope is more important than actually the content that we share, right? Because to a certain extent, DID is like that, right? DID is really candid. DID is really conversational, right? We work and grow using dialogue, right? We're not so much behind like a lecture screen or exams. There's almost no exams, right? We try to work with you as a person. Sometimes we see you frustrated, struggling, and crying. Right? Sometimes we see you really happy because you just broke through, your own barriers, right? And I think the community is like this. So if you like conversations like that, it's really open. maybe DID could be something that you want to consider. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, how do you cope up with with the frustration of not being able to translate your ideas onto paper? That's something I'm interested in knowing, if there's a way to cope up with it.
When you say to cope with it, not being able to get it to paper, do you mean like you have a certain thought but you can't draw it out? Is that what you're saying?
Not. Just to, like an example, if I have an idea, very elaborate idea in my mind, but I don't know how to first say draw it like it is in my mind, even though I know how to, but sometimes, that artist's block takes place and you don't know, and that just stays stuck forever. Is that something students experience quite often?
Yes, sometimes. Yeah, and we do guide you on how to get unstuck with that, right? There are so many ways to do this. For example, yeah, because I can't quite picture what you might be having in your mind, but sometimes, we encourage students, if it's about drawing, right, and if they have some idea in their mind, we just say, don't draw the whole thing, draw the smallest part of it first, right? Draw it from a simpler view. Don't try to draw it from like a 3D view. Draw it from the side view, right? Because it's always easier to draw something from the pure side view than from like a 3-dimensional view, right? There are so many ways to do this, right? To give you an example, we've seen this repeatedly with students. If you ask them to design, say, even a simple object like a kettle, okay? They'll be like, oh man, okay, they'll be like, okay, this is a really simple object. We almost don't do these projects anymore. But if they were to handle a kettle, if you ask them to draw the kettle, they will take quite long and it will not be very creative, right? But when we say, now, free your mind from the kettle first, let's just draw what the handle might look like, right? And when their mind is focused on just on the handle and only drawing the handle, you will see that on the paper, it's easily 50 different handles that comes out, right? Easily, right? Because your mind is only focused on iterating or varying one object or one element. Now, when they have that pen down and you ask them, say, okay, now go back and fill in the blanks and draw the rest of the kettle, they have 50 kettles immediately. They are very different. Okay, so that's, you can see actually there's some kind of sometimes there's some mental tricks, right, to deal with things that are too hard to hold in our minds. We sometimes refer to this as reducing the amount of variables. And in creativity, in unblocking creativity, one of the things that you want to have is to reduce variables that you hold in your mind and just work on one thing at a time before you piece the rest of things together. Sarah, I hope that answers or gives you a glimpse of the kind of things that you will learn here. That's just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yes, thank you so much.
Sorry, I have one last question. I wanted to ask, has COVID affected lessons for DID?
COVID has affected everything.
Like, do you guys do lessons like through Zoom?
Okay, yes, we do. And actually, right, I tell you some things that are interesting. COVID and these kind of big changes in the world, right? As much as not diminishing the sufferings that people have gone through, okay? The things that they've gone through are indeed painful. But these kind of big changes in the world are also very exciting time for designers. By exciting, I mean, we observe how things change, how innovation speeds up a lot. And at the same time, we also immediately experience it in our courses and in the work that our students do. So I'll share you one funny anecdote. When we started to kind of switch to Zoom, right, to kind of do classes and consultations, like now I'm talking to you face-to-face, Delphine, right? And then when the circuit breaker stopped and we could kind of go back together to meet in person, we sat around a table of 6 to discuss. We were suddenly finding it very odd that I couldn't see your screen very well. Like we were so used to seeing each other's monitors very well when they share screen on over Zoom, and we realized that, hey, actually over Zoom there's some benefits, right? Now, interestingly, that led to some other kind of interesting behaviors. Like, for example, now even when we meet in person, we turn on Zoom, right? So that we could see each other's monitors without even having to project it somewhere. Now, things like that change. A lot of things change. Like, for example, now students become a lot more capable at wrapping their design presentation stories in a very compelling short video, because that's the format that works better over Zoom. And when you share it, you grade it asynchronously. Now, meaning that not in real time, right? So has that done well for us? I think to a good extent it has, because now a lot of students, they graduate, right? Not just with something that they have to fumble through and present in person, but their portfolio has like some really slick, 3 or 4 videos that are done about the projects that can be sent to anybody anytime. So things change. There are things that we miss. There are also new things that we gain. And DID is one of those places which changes very fast and responds very fast to the changes in the world, just because everybody that's running it, teaching it, learning in it are all designers. And when we capitalize on the opportunity to shift. Okay. So Delphine, if you're curious about how things change with COVID, this is the place to see how things change.
Okay, I got one last question from Jarvis. So he asked me, how are the lecturers in DID, and do they guide you often and or mostly self-learning?
Maybe I have to turn off my sound so I don't hear first, right? Then you can speak more candidly. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay,
okay, wait. I think you should go ahead, and then we should also ask Ben and Desiree. They represent different years of generations and what they experience. In my time, speaking as a student, the teachers are still as caring as now. There are some of them who are still here, right? Who were my supervisors, when I was a student, and now they're my colleagues, right? The teachers are great. Of course, there are some who are not so great, right? To be very frank, but they have left, and maybe just not so suitable for the culture here, right? Yeah, or maybe they don't find us good enough. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Ling, back to you.
So you're going to cover your ears.
I can't know how to cover my ears.
Okay. Okay, some professors do like what Donn said previously, like the genius, right? The Clement, Dr. Clement Koh. Clementon, sorry. Yeah. So he does handhold sometimes, but there's also professors who sort of like, the tough papa love, that kind of like, they just tell you what to do, but you got to do it yourself. So they do provide guidance always when necessary, but some do sort of like give a bit more in like making sure like staying a bit longer, giving the consultations to each student who perhaps might struggle with their briefs and such. And I still recall the project with Everything is COVID, right? Donn was still messaging my group like at 11 p.m. and such, like trying to.
Not sure that's a good thing.
No, we were asking like for help because like it was like almost to submission, and he was still like helping with like answering our questions and such. So yeah, it was like no matter what, I think no professor will actually want the students to purposely suffer. But like suffer does make you grow, but no worries. Yeah, you do self-learn sometimes, but it's all like mostly like the technical stuff, like let's say you need to learn Blender, like a new software, or Rhino and something. University is still kind of tough. I don't think no one will say university life is easy. I hope that answers your question. Maybe Benjamin or Desiree.
Yes, you can go first.
Yeah, I mean, I just have one small addition to that about how, I mean, I guess for uni, it's a bit different with the professors, because their characters and their personalities come out a lot more compared to schooling years. So with that said, then you also get a very, very big variety of professors with different personalities, different quirks. And so if it sometimes goes down to, meeting a professor who to be your mentor, who just vibes with you, and you kind of just get each other and you understand, and then that's where you get perhaps a lot more suitable or appropriate mentoring that you're looking for. But yeah, I do think that these whole like personalities of different tutors also matter, and you get to find that out as you take different classes that they offer.
For me, I just want to add on, like, since you all are going to apply to NUS, right? And when you all become a student in NUS, I think make full use of your opportunity in school. And actually, even you are not taking a professor's module or something, right? Actually, I think all the professors and tutors in NUS are actually very open. You can just knock on their door and have a chat with them. So I think for me, like I call it myself itchy backside. So sometimes I actually like also can message like computing lecturers and ask them about certain stuff. And they are actually very, very open and friendly. Then they will actually reply you and maybe even point you in the right direction. So yeah, make full use of your education in NUS. And sorry, I just use this opportunity to address some of the questions that I got answer to. So for next year's batch, right? The batch size is around it's not 100% confirmed yet. It's around 52 to 60 for next year.
So bigger.
Yeah, it's this big. Yeah, so yes, it's getting bigger and bigger by the year. So the next batch is at least 52. Yeah, maximum 60. You can see Donn's face. Wow, so many people to mark. Okay, then the next one is about the IB course. So the IB thing is a university-wide kind of like mandate. So they are taking in about at least 10 to 15% IB students. So that applies to our course also. So the cutoff point, I currently don't have the data for last year's cutoff point, but it actually depends on the current batch who are applying. And then there's one last question about the math module thing. So I clarified already. So there's no per se like a math requirement for DID, but then you still need to qualify for the the generic cutoff for applying to NUS. So that applies to you, but then DID when we select you, we won't specifically look for your math score. Yeah, and someone, I think it's Jarvis also just messaged me privately and asked about something about NS stuff. So I think there are some guys here, and the guys might be from who are in NS right now. So just to share my story about my NS time when I entered NUS. So I ORD in September, but as you all know, the school start in August. So I actually reserved all my leave in NS time, and I used it in the last month. So I remember when I was in DID at the time, right? I actually brought the homework to the guard duty office to do the homework. Yeah, so yeah, I was like still in NS, and I still at the same time already a first year student in DID. So I think it really depends on your situation. But if you're so sway that you get the September batch one, right? Then I guess you got to talk to your supervisor and stuff, and then let you go out for classes and stuff like this. If not, if you are going to ORD before that, like those April, June batch, right? Then I think you are in time for the course, and do take those opportunity to join all the NUS what is that called? Like the OG groups to learn those orientation camps and stuff. I think if there's a chance and COVID allows for it, right, I'll go for it, because I think that's where you make friends from other faculty. If not, there's a very like, because of the course structure, right, your friends that you know around NUS, right, would kind of like only be within the CDE faculty, I mean college. Yeah, so use the opportunity to learn, make friends with other business people and science people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the NS option also, you could just defer that few months if you want to, right, to finish up after, if you are not like Ben so garang to do both at the same time. Okay. We see that there are two more questions that came in, right? Should we address them? Desiree, Ben, is it okay we address them or no? Maybe let's take this as the last two, and then we release everyone. I mean, because I think sometimes those of you who want to run off, when you see there's more questions you want to stay on still, But anyway, let me try to answer some of these things. Feng Rong, I need to clarify your question though. When you say if I try to figure out better design for everything I see in daily life, spending lots of time, will it keep me from coming out of very innovative ideas? Could you clarify this question? I'm finding it a bit hard to understand, right? If you can open your mind and share.
Well, I have a habit of thinking about better design of everything like pencils, campuses or something else in daily life, and I think I may spend too much time in these things, and I wonder if I spend too much time in thinking about these rather trivial things, will it keep me from coming out of very big ideas like using plans to figuring out some way to capture carbon dioxide by plants on the walls of buildings or something like that?
I think your ability to think of better everything, right? It's your choice to apply it to small things or to apply it to trickier, bigger challenges, right? So I don't see it as a kind of like a disadvantage that you have. In fact, I see it as an advantage. Okay, you just maybe need to decide where you want to spend the time on. Okay, the same kind of thinking in improving smaller things is the foundation of the thinking to improve in the bigger things. Even though I must say that with a bit of a caveat that sometimes the more innovative things that you're talking about now here requires fundamental scientific progress, right? Or some technical breakthrough, and that sometimes could be within a designer's expertise. That sometimes could be outside of the designer's expertise, and we may have to, if it's outside, then you may have to wait for the right time where something, some kind of ingredient is available, and you as a designer sees where that could be used first than others. Then you could actually appropriate that to do a more innovative, in your terms, right? Innovative type of project. Okay, I don't see you having a handicap in that area. I see that it's a strength. Hope that answers your question, Feng. Okay, Marcus, you're asking me life story question. Okay, so I'll be very candid. What was I like when I was a student? I started off in DID stumbling into it. I didn't really know what it was, right? I don't know, maybe some of you are very fortunate now to kind of know what it is. I basically applied to architecture, got in. At the time, architecture and DID were in the somewhat the same umbrella, or rather we were under architecture, got in, right? And then at that time, my dad had some dealings with, or he knows some people at NUS who just happened to tell him, say, hey, there's this course called ID. Did you know that? Right? I think my dad was more interested in the course than I was. Right? So he came back and told me, say, hey, have you considered this DID thing or no, this ID thing? Then when I look at it, it's like, oh, sounds like not much difference from architecture in that sense. One seems to be designing buildings, the other seems to be designing factories. You see, that's what I thought ID was. Right? I said, okay, whatever, I'll just change and just go into it. And because they were under the same umbrella at the time, the qualification factors were the same, and I could just switch over to ID. Only when I got into it, I realized that was exactly what I really wanted to do, right? Yeah, to do objects that I could hold in my hand, that could do things that were was fitting with my kind of inclinations of making new mechanical changes to things, like, for example. So that's how I started in DID. What was I like really as a student? Because I fumbled into the course, right? I felt very unsure at the start, right? Because I had friends around me who could draw really well, right? And in those years when you have people who can draw really well, the ideas just seem to be better ideas, right? They just, if the idea is drawn well, it just looks like a better idea. In those years, right, it tend to feel that way, or at least maybe when I was a student feeling inadequate, I felt that way, right? So it was a bit of a struggle, constantly wondering how could I somehow excel, right? So I made myself learn a lot, right, in terms of catching up, right? So on one hand, I think I was quite competitive. I was I made myself learn quite a lot in these areas and catch up. At the same time, feeling very lacking in the area of creativity and creating ideas. always wondering like why I only have one idea, right? My idea, only one idea on always, and it just cannot break out from it. I kept trying to figure out how do people create ideas quickly and vividly. And that struggle actually did me a lot of good because as I made it my obsession, right, now it almost becomes like the thing that I'm known for, right? I think in DID, if you ask the students or even in industry, now I teach people how to create ideas when they have no idea. So that's almost a personal struggle that became almost a strength, just because I really wanted to make it happen. Now, if you're asking about other aspects of me as a student, right? I was a horrible teammate to have, a horrible classmate to have, because I was so competitive, right? I was always trying to make things just one step more than everybody else. So thankfully, I think I've recovered from that quite a bit. Right? I think in the year 4 years, I started to see the beauty of the friendships that were around, right? And the kind of collaboration that exists in a cohort like ours, and then started to learn how to make friends, right? And that's where you regret the first 3 years of your behavior, but then again, that's just my journey, lah. DID now, I think when you come in, you will enjoy the environment of friendships that we have crafted for you guys. I think the dynamics of the curriculum allows for a lot of collaboration and teamwork. It's less like in the past where everything was very individual, and I think in individual environment in like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I mean actually longer than that, right? I think situations like mine might arise a lot more often, where everyone is very competitive, right? Now I think everyone is having a lot of fun with each other. Okay, Marcus, I hope that's what gives you a bit of insight. Now, because maybe another thing that might be relevant for you is that because even though I was not equipped in the artistic background or feeling quite inadequate with idea creativity, but I really worked like mad, okay, to just learn it. And I would say that the teachers who are currently my colleagues now, they would say the same. I mean, they would say that like, this dude is nuts. I'm not trying to say that I'm an exemplar. I'm really just trying to say that even for those of you who feel like you are not so initially confident about your creative talents, right? You could kind of like work it through, right? That's the main thing I'm trying to say here. We have a lot of students in DID who work really hard, and I think it will serve them really well. Yeah. Okay, Marcus.
Okay, I think that's all the time we have for today with the questions. If anybody else has any more questions, please feel free to join us in our Telegram chat. We have again copied and pasted the link in the Zoom chat. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. We do have another Q&A lined up next Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. with Dr. Christian, who is the head of DID. So if you do have any more questions for us, please join us next Tuesday at 7.
Yeah, and do join the Telegram chat so that we can get some of those questions answered, right? Earlier ones that were still left hanging, right? Okay, thanks for the chat today, everyone. See you guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All the best for your applications.